Once again, the ghost of Chernobyl hangs over Europe this week. A complex and alarming story has emerged from southern Ukraine. Reports surfaced that a Ukrainian drone strike damaged power infrastructure near the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station, Europe's largest, giving Moscow a pretext to sever the plant's last links to the Ukrainian grid and attempt to bind it into Russia's own electricity system. Indeed, there's a report going on almost at the moment in Turkish media suggesting that this is a Russian sort of aid mission. President Vladimir Putin, of course, has wasted no time. At a forum in St. Petersburg, he accused Kyiv of dangerously playing with an operating nuclear facility on its doorstep. He claimed that Ukrainian strikes destroyed a key high-voltage line, plunging the plant into its longest blackout since the war began. Diesel generators are now keeping the plant's safety systems alive. And Putin's message was not just technical but theatrical. If Ukraine can risk a nuclear incident, he suggested, Russia can mirror those actions. Kyiv tells quite a different story. President Vladimir Zelensky says it was Russian shelling, not Ukrainian drones, that severed the line. Environmental monitors such as Greenpeace have examined high-resolution satellite imagery and found no evidence of recent Ukrainian strikes on the pylons. They accuse Russia of staging the outage to justify permanently disconnecting the station from Ukraine's grid and plugging it into Moscow-controlled networks feeding Crimea and occupied southern Ukraine. To grasp the stakes, one must understand the peculiar status of the Zaporizhzhia plant. The six-reactor complex once produced a fifth of Ukraine's electricity, but has been shut since 2022, and it's full of fresh Westinghouse-made fuel rods, hotter and harder to remove than old Russian ones. These rods must stay cooled for years before they can be safely moved, and cooling requires stable external power. The Novo-Kakhovka Dam, which once fed the plant's reservoirs, was blown up in 2023. Water is scarcer now, and restarting even one reactor would need a reliable grid connection and abundant cooling water. Neither exists. Russia wants that connection. Crimea and the occupied coast of the Sea of Azov are suffering erratic blackouts. Power cuts in Simferopol are so frequent that fridges break and residents despair. For Moscow, bringing Zaporizhzhia onto its grid would symbolize permanence, feed its new territories and bolster its claim that annexation is irreversible. It's also leverage. A nuclear plant under Russian control powering Russian-held land would give Putin one more card to play in any peace negotiation. Ukraine has tried to stop this. Its forces have repeatedly targeted Russian-built transmission lines, fuel depots and substations. Analysts say the new blackout looks more like sabotage by Russia itself, a prelude to connecting the plant to occupied networks and declaring Kyiv incapable of protecting nuclear safety. The danger is not an immediate Chernobyl-style explosion. The reactors are shut down, but a total loss of power could lead to fuel overheating and radioactive release. The International Atomic Energy Agency warns that relying on diesel generators is unsustainable. They can fail. Fuel deliveries can be interrupted by fighting. Operators are working under occupation, under pressure, and with limited access to spare parts. Meanwhile, Russia steps up missile and drone strikes on Ukraine's wider energy grid as winter approaches, trying to break morale and cripple industry. Over the weekend, 50 missiles and 500 drones hit power and gas sites from Lviv to Zaporizhzhia to Chernihiv. Hundreds of thousands lost power. Some cities halted public transport. The symbolism's clear. Russia wants Ukraine cold, dark and dependent, and there's even an American angle to this story. Earlier this year, Donald Trump floated a plan to place the Zaporizhzhia plant under US management as part of a potential settlement. Some Ukrainian analysts argue that attacks on Russian attempts to hook up the plant will continue until any peace deal guarantees international, preferably US, control over its operation. So, what should we take from this moment? First, nuclear safety has become a weapon in this war. Second, Putin is testing Western nerve. Will the world tolerate him using a nuclear plant both as a hostage and a political prize? And third, the technical fragility of Zaporizhzhia, aging equipment, dwindling water, generators running on borrowed time, means an accident could happen even without deliberate sabotage. The international response must be sharper. The IAEA's Rafael Grossi is pressing for restored external power, but Moscow uses each mission as propaganda. Kyiv's allies should demand unfettered inspection, sanction companies enabling Russia's grid integration, and bolster Ukraine's own air defences to prevent further energy strikes. Because this is not just about wires and turbines, it's about sovereignty and safety. And a blackout at Zaporizhzhia is not simply about an engineering failure, it's a calculated act of war in the grey zone between nuclear threat and conventional combat. And if Russia succeeds in rewiring the plant to its grid, it will claim a dangerous victory, both symbolic and strategic, while the rest of Europe lives under the shadow of another nuclear crisis.